Hey everyone, so this video is going to be sort of an extension from my Splatana Wiper guide. When I talked about gear in the guide, I actually had a lot more stuff that I recorded and edited, but I made the decision not to include it because I didn't want the guide to feel too cluttered. What I decided to do instead was make the entire gear section into its own video, since gear building for the Splatana Wiper is a topic that a lot of people might be interested in by itself. This video is going to include a build for the vanilla wiper that I didn't talk about in the original guide, as well as some builds for the wiper deco. I hope you like talking about gear because this is going to be a lot. Let's do it. What are the best abilities to run for the Splatana Wiper? To help with this distractive playstyle, you're definitely going to want to run some quick respawn. It doesn't need to take up your whole build like the Tetra dualies, but run a decent amount of it. I'd say roughly 3 mains or 9 subs worth is a good baseline. I do also think that stealth jump is quite nice on this weapon, although some people do opt to run object shredder. I personally don't run object shredder because the weapon already has insane object damage, but if you really want to destroy stuff like wave breakers and splash walls as fast as possible, then it might be for you. I think stealth jump is the superior option just because it makes jumping back in and grabbing the enemy's attention that much easier. Now, here's where things become a little more personal preference. Comeback, Last Ditch Effort, and Haunt are all amazing abilities for the Splatana Wiper. The issue though is you really only have room to run one of these if you're choosing to stick with a quick respawn / stealth jump build. Now for me personally, I don't run Haunt. Don't get me wrong, the ability to see people through walls and respawn punish them is great, but I prefer having some form of assistance with a torpedo. So that leaves us with Comeback or Last Ditch Effort. Again, you can really run either of these on any mode, both of them suit the weapon really well. Since Last Ditch Effort is so good on Splat Zones and Turf War, I usually run it for those modes. But for every other mode, I run Comeback. Every perk that Comeback gives helps out the wiper immensely, even if it's only for 20 seconds. Both of these abilities allow me to use torpedoes a lot more comfortably, which in turn leads to more combos and more success. Here's the builds that I currently run, and most top players run something similar. I just want to reiterate though, this weapon isn't super gear dependent. Yes, quick respawn and stealth jump are what's most common in the current meta, but that doesn't mean that you have to run it. Just run what you want, but be mindful of the weapon's playstyle. If you're not a fan of quick respawn, another build that I found a lot of success with is a Ninja Squid speed build. While Ninja Squid certainly isn't necessary on the Splatana Wiper, I do think it works quite well. With the weapon's one-shot potential, sneaking around and quickly popping out of the ink and surprise attacking people is an effective strategy. To balance out the speed nerfs from Ninja Squid, running a decent amount of swim speed is a smart idea. Comeback is also great for this build because that also gives you some extra speed, along with the ink efficiency perks that we discussed earlier. Of course, I still think that stealth jump and a couple utility subs are absolutely necessary. This build is really fun, but remember that you need to be careful with it. You don't have that quick respawn safety net of the last build, so you can't just keep going in and dying. For this build, I'd say going for a more sharky playstyle is the right call. Alright, let's talk about the wiper deco now. While the main weapon is exactly the same, its kit sort of lends itself to a very different playstyle. With no lethal bomb, as well as Tenta missiles for its special, you aren't going to be as aggressive with this thing. Missiles are a top tier special in Splatoon 3, so you're going to want to get them relatively quickly. Because of that, I think running around a main of special charge up is a good idea. Now yes, it's true. Even though it's only 190 points for special, this weapon doesn't get a ton of missiles, because you'll die a decent amount on it. I did say that this variant is less aggressive, but that doesn't mean you won't be fighting at all. Plus, missiles are just generally harder to spam now after its big nerf that it received a couple seasons ago. So with all this in mind, it makes a bit more sense now why top players like to run some special charge up on it. Running a sub of special saver is also smart, since one sub of that is extremely effective. Now, earlier I mentioned that I like to run Last Ditch Effort on the vanilla wiper for Turf War and Splat Zones, since it's quite good on those modes and it allows you to spam torpedoes more effectively. The wiper deco, however, doesn't have a bomb. It has Squid Beacon, which isn't exactly something that you spam, especially while you're in a fight. For that reason, I don't think last ditch effort is worth it on the Wiper Deco. It just doesn't really help with that much. Comeback though is extremely useful. As I mentioned earlier, pretty much every perk that Comeback gives is beneficial to the Wiper. Remember, Comeback gives you a special charge up while it's active, so that can stack with the special charge up that you're already running. The rest of the build is pretty similar to the vanilla Wiper. I still think Stealth Jump works great for this weapon to get back into the action, and it can also make it harder for enemies to see you when jumping into one of your beacons. Speaking of beacons, I'd highly recommend at least one sub of Sub Power Up. If you didn't know, running small amounts of Sub Power Up curves extremely well for Squid beacons, with one sub nearly cutting the super jump time in half for all of your teammates, not just you. I run one sub, but you can run two if you really like the fast beacons. Besides that, you can just fill up any free space with quick respawn and utility subs. Here's the build that I've used for Wiper Deco since it came out, and I haven't had to change it since. It's perfect. But I will show you one more build that I got from a top player just for the sake of variety. I got this build from a player named Zenith, who's a top Wiper player in the West. They call this the passive-aggressive Wiper, and you can tell that this build is definitely more support-oriented. There's a large emphasis on Squid beacons here, and the Object Shredder allows it to stay back a bit more and help destroy certain subs and specials for your team. But with the Ninja Squid, it can also quickly change up playstyles and be sneakily aggressive when necessary. These last two builds I just showed you are very different, but pick whichever one suits the playstyle that you prefer. Alright guys, that about does it for the Wiper gear guide. If you enjoyed it, please like and consider subscribing, because that would help me out a lot. And remember, this video is just a section taken from my complete Splatana Wiper guide, which has been out for a bit now. If you haven't seen that yet, I'd highly recommend go checking it out. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, so if the Wiper is a weapon you're interested in, click the link down below. That's gonna be it guys. I wanna thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.